deportation prisons should only exist as scary stories. Stories you tell kids around a campfire in the woods at night. But exceptions happen. There exists such a prison like this one right before the runway at Gardermoen airport outside Oslo, Norway. They call it TRANDUM. Is it really such a bad place? Politicians describe it as a detention center for foreigners. This center has been there for decades. For me, the first time I was sent there was in 2003. And back then, there was only one building, yes. Some may assume it is some kind of an immigration exchange program. Here's the secret. You don't have to be a genius to end up there. You just have to be a foreigner in Norway. You will be driven into a secure area, passing through multiple layers of protection. However, the security measures are not primarily for you or mine benefit, but to protect their society, keeping us here for better or worse, who knows. High walls continue to rise like skyscrapers surrounding everything. Sometimes handcuffs will be on you on your way in and even on the way out. It is quite different from my first experience here, which allows me to compare. Since 2003, this place has undergone enormous expansion. In the old days, a center for only 30 inmates, a free packet of cigarettes and even pizza. You could easily climb over the fence and escape the deportation prisons at any time. Now, in 2022, there are many prison units here, each housing hundreds of inmates, and the endless corridors decorating with various artwork. Each has NATO alphabetical numbering, A for Alpha, B for Bravo, and so on. Whatever you are heading, to the court, to the visiting room, to the doctor, or the activity center, you will be walking through them most of the time. All inmates attempt to be polite and friendly here. Yes, there are even families present at TRANDUM. Under the current conditions, each inmate has their own individual room. A far cry from my initial experience when 8 people were crammed into a single room. Now more private time. The main building, the original TRANDUM, was being abandoned for immigrants and now used for administration purpose only. Reconfigured room for visitors today was once our room back in 2003. The room for lawyers used to sleep in 2005 during my 3rd stay at the center. Life moves forward just as immigration policy changes. You go through a tough transformation. The police will arrest you at the bus terminal or asylum center and then drive you here. Now, deportation is the new long-term goal for your life, whatever voluntary or not. At first, it is unclear what will happen in the near future, but the police will drive you to the court, where you will be informed about your 4-week custody. The court hearing is also an interesting experience. You sit in the basement somewhere in Oslo for several hours, waiting for your 4 weeks. Lawyers often say that if you are driven to the court, the chances for release increase. In your dream, pal. But I can buy it, yes. Since you may also have video court conference from the TRANDUM, and video don't always showing the unfairness so clearly. I want to remind you once again that as a foreigner, you may end up at TRANDUM anyway. In court, the police get their way regardless of what you say, at least for the first 3 months. They can keep you at random without any issues, but afterward, special circumstances are required. In your case, if you don't provide the password for your phone, you could be here for up to 18 months, since you are not cooperating. Even if you provide the password, it may not be enough. Yes, you probably deleted some important information, and we need to find it. It will take time. But now, it can be a life sentence at random. They are working with that law. If police believe you pose a threat to Norway or their national interest, welcome here. You will get 4 weeks, unlimited times. The basement at the courthouse reflects the despair of many people who have been there before you. The only things you can do is scratching your name on the wall. I always write Soviet Union. Others just write fuck Norway. But now I have received my court decision about my precious 4 weeks custody. We are heading back to the airport now, back to TRANDUM. In 2011, upon arrival from the court, it was procedure to be stripped naked and stand up on a mirror, while the staff inspected your ass with a flashlight, even after visits from friends and lawyers as well. Every time a friend visits you, your ass is checked. The mirror challenge has now been abolished. I was just informed that my 5,000 euros were confiscated to cover my state's expenses for keeping me in the country. Money, which I will return later. Welcome again. India is your new home. I for India. You get a room with a shower, toilet and a small TV. Enjoy your life with news, sports and movies. But honestly, you will end up watching the same movies repeatedly. The window provides a view over exercise yard and plenty of noise from the landing planes. It can be quite tough at nights when you are left alone with your thoughts, because the doors are locked from 9 in the evening to 8 in the morning. Yes, inmates knock on the walls to entertain each other. On New Year Eve, everyone shouted through the ventilation hall and wished everyone Merry Christmas. Happy New Year, actually. The inmates developed their own language, a mix of homemade words and some phrases. My favorite was not gentlemanish, used to point out something bad, and lady and gentlemen as a greeting. Staff were called with animal names borrowed from Arabic, Khanzir. Many of the staff were Norwegians who have been converted to Islam. It was interesting to hear why, but I never asked. We used to grill cheese in the microwave and we call it double crunchy. There was a lot of talking during dinners. In my group of friends, we had a person from Pakistan who I called Papa Johnny. He liked to prepare the table for his friends in the cafeteria so that everyone had a plastic fork and a napkin at their place before dinner time. Glass of water as well. He had his own challenge, but this will come later in my story. We learned to cooperate. Some gave away cigarettes to others, and in return got some quality time, like playing games, chess and dominoes. When you arrive, the police wants to know if you are a smoker, and this information goes into the system and also on your ID card. all smokers receiving only 7 cigarettes a day from the Norwegian state. I remembered this system from my previous stays, so I answered, yes, I smoke, but it was really just white lies. It was a challenge for vegans at TRANDUM, as the food served followed old-fashioned recipes. After a while, they gave me more vegetables and nuts through the health center nurses. But this took time. You need to persuade them first. In return, they tried to persuade me to accept the vaccination. No thanks. Isn't it not the purpose to kill me here, send me here again and again? Let the virus kill me then. Your problems are solved. A question came up about how I could be vegan and smoke. I only smoke occasionally to reduce stress, I said. The staff tried to monitor the exercise yard to see if I was actually smoking. However, if I had a cigarette in my hand and pretended to smoke while walking around, nothing would happen. I won. But I gave my cigarettes to others, to my friends. Several of the Russian-speaking staff members attempted to expose me. Many inmates also gave their cigarettes to others. Cooperation and friendship are closely related concepts. You quickly fall into a fixed daily ritual here. Waking up, cigarettes, food, and activity center. Only the landing planes capture your attention. The biggest one from Qatar arrives precisely at the same time every day. In 2012, we could recognize Russian planes, but in 2022, they were gone. However, the military planes, Hercules, disturb us for hours. Whenever journalists describe TRANDUM in the newspapers, it seems as if they're trying to prevent refugees from coming to Norway. This initial scare strategy, however, could eventually discourage some tourists from visiting Norway. After all, tourists are foreigners too. At TRANDUM, Papajani was the one who introduced Indian music into our lives. His CD collection was stored at the activity center. There we played basketball and badminton, borrowing books from a small library and used the workout rooms. We even managed to adapt an internet news reading box to play videos for adults. My daily joy was playing table tennis with a friend from Syria, even though he wasn't the best player. Indian music, not as the name of our prison unit, brought back memories from the Soviet era. We had Indian culture as the main source of entertainment in the cinemas. Music served as a medicine to help us forget about the many months of staying here. Thanks for that. However, there was also moments of deep despair. Papajani once attempted suicide in the restroom using a razor blade. Fortunately, he was saved by a friend. He just ended up in the security department for a short period, then returned to India, the name of our prison unit. Everyone counted down the days until the next court hearing. I enjoyed organizing my own fun activities, like making homemade frisbees from paper plates and rubber bands. We played both indoors and outdoors. There was a guy from China, known as a China guy, who tried to persuade others to change their lawyer to his. And he disturbed everyone. He was my neighbor. And we were all neighbors, up to 18 people per unit. 8 of us had windows facing the exercise yard, while the other faced the airport or forest. On the exercise yard, I created snow sculptures and also wrote USSR in large letters. The first sculpture was a nude lady, and the rest were numerous variation including turtle, sleeping otter, elephant, dolphin, and some abstract figures. When the first snow came, we borrowed shovels from the staff member to clean the area and create large mountains of compressed snow, like compact one. Compact snow was necessary for my figures. Snow became as an art material, allow me to bring something to the life. The day the police came to pick me up, I was on my way to school practice. Suddenly they arrived like Gestapo. Yes, I also lived at the asylum center for 20 years, but I was also a student, a kind of future elementary school teacher. Nevertheless, I was relocated to TRANDUM once again. When you have lived in Norway for many years, you end up at TRANDUM once in a while. For me, it happened 5 times in total. I had also been sent there because I tried to leave Norway, been returned back to Norway around 20 times. But no matter what you do, it seems that you eventually end up at TRANDUM, a kind of art. However, I wasn't the first to write in the snow. Someone had already written hope in the capital letters, and I vandalized it twice by adding a line, turning it into the hair. It is possible if it's written in Norwegian. But stopped. Showing respect for the original message is important. Snow and I had a special relationship, not only because of my sculptures, but also because I walked barefoot every day. And I still have hope to become an elementary school teacher one day. Daily puzzles and Sudoku have been of great help to me. However, Daily puzzles and Sudoku have been of great help to me. However, when the conflict in Ukraine broke out, I received notice that I would be released under certain conditions after 4 months in custody. I had to stay in Norway for 6 months at a specific location, not at random. I refused and threatened to vandalize all the cars in the parking lot. But later in the evening, the police guy offered to return my confiscated money if I simply left the place without causing harm or even agree to any conditions. I was transported to the nearest bus station, visited some friends, and then traveled abroad temporarily. Why not spending money on something traveling? And who really cares about their decision? We don't care. I don't care. How to avoid ending up at random? But I will ask something else. What kind of damages can you cause if you end up there? You can rip off communications cable, smash fire sensor, offload devices that can handle water. The long-term goal is to cause losses on the state of Norway, both economically and in terms of prestige. Imagine that the money the state spends on the TRANDUM could be used for military expenses. Terrible! If each immigrant managing to cause billions of crowns and economical damages, life would be so different. Don't be afraid. Stay positive at TRANDUM. Imagine that every last crown for the state to keep you there means one less bullet fire and fewer Norwegian soldiers causing harm to civilians in other countries.